I'm Teisha Bader with Shalom TV's news update for Tuesday, October the 15th, 2013. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called on the P5+1 countries to keep up sanctions against Iran. The P5+1, which is the U.S., Russia, China, France, Britain, and Germany, are meeting in Geneva today and tomorrow and will pressure Iran to curb its nuclear program in return for a possible lessening of sanctions. Netanyahu warned that doing so would be a great error. He said now is an opportune moment to reach a genuine diplomatic solution that peacefully ends Iran's military nuclear program. The Prime Minister said this opportunity can only be realized if the international community continues to place pressure on Iran, because it is that pressure that has brought Iran back to the negotiations in the first place. And it is that pressure which makes the peaceful dismantling of Iran's military nuclear program possible. Netanyahu said the negotiations in Geneva were taking place at a time when Iran was under great pressure and said it would be a historic mistake to ease sanctions when they are so close to achieving their goals. The Prime Minister made the statements before a meeting in Jerusalem today with Malta Prime Minister Joseph Muscat. Yesterday, the Prime Minister had made similar statements at the Israeli Knesset, and earlier today, the Prime Minister's Security Cabinet issued a similar statement prior to the start of talks in Geneva, urging the world powers not to reduce sanctions at this point. The cabinet said it had unanimously adopted Netanyahu's call to Iran to cease uranium enrichment and close its production facilities. And the Israeli Knesset held a special ceremony today to mark the 40th anniversary of the Yom Kippur War. At the ceremony, Prime Minister Netanyahu said that going to war is one of the hardest decisions a government can make. And he said that Israel would not fall asleep on its watch again. He said the lessons of the Yom Kippur War have stayed with Israel for these last 40 years. Netanyahu said the first lesson is to never underestimate the threats, never underestimate the enemy, and never ignore the signs of danger. The second lesson, he said, is not to give up in advance on a preemptive strike. Not every situation, he said, requires such a blow. You must consider things carefully and cautiously. The IDF today detonated a tunnel running from the Gaza Strip into Israel. The tunnel, which was filled with explosives and over a mile long, was a recently discovered part of an area that was initially found last year before the conflict with Gaza. The IDF spokesman's office said earlier this morning IDF forces detonated a tunnel exposed shortly before Operation Pillar of Defense in order to sabotage yet another terror infrastructure of Hamas. Another newer tunnel was found several days ago near Kibbutz Ein HaShlosha in Israel. Commander of the Gaza Division of the IDF, Brigadier General Michael Edelstein, said that that tunnel was very advanced and well prepared. He said it was intended for terror in the vicinity of civilian communities. Edelstein said Hamas operatives built the tunnel over the course of a year, which he said was an extreme violation of the post-Operation Pillar of Defense ceasefire. Edelstein also said the IDF was continuing to look for more such tunnels in the area. The Jerusalem Post reports that U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry asked members of pro-Israel lobby AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, to support Prime Minister Netanyahu during peace negotiations with the Palestinians. Kerry addressed AIPAC's national summit in California this weekend via satellite from London, where he told the group that a two-state solution was the only solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Kerry said Prime Minister Netanyahu, just like Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas, has made tough political decisions and taken major risks for peace. He understands that if Israel is going to find a way to remain a Jewish state and democratic state, it must act soon. Kerry added, more than ever, if Prime Minister Netanyahu decides that it is in the best interests of the people of Israel to make reasonable compromises for peace, he will need to know that you have his back. Kerry urged the group to make their voices heard and support the Prime Minister along the difficult road to peace. And Nazi war criminal Erich Priebke is causing outrage even after his death. Several countries have refused to bury the former SS captain who was found guilty of taking part in the massacre of 335 men and boys, 75 of them Jewish, outside of Rome in 1944. As we reported to you on Friday, Priebke died at the age of 100 while under house arrest. And so far, the Catholic Church, the city of Rome, his adopted homeland of Argentina, and even his German hometown have all refused to bury him. Ynet reports that Priebke's son Jorge claimed the treatment was unfair and even suggested that his father should be buried in Israel. The younger Priebke said, "Where should he be buried? To me, also Israel is good, so that they're happy," apparently referring to those who wish to prevent any sort of honorable ceremony for his father. World Jewish Congress President Ronald Lauder welcomed the refusal expressed so far from various countries to bury Priebke. He said the entire world is expressing its revulsion at this unrepentant Nazi war criminal. Lauder said, "We commend the government of Argentina, the mayor of Rome, and the church for refusing to give Erich Priebke posthumous rehabilitation and credibility. His corpse should be cremated," Lauder said, "and his ashes scattered in an unknown location, as was done with Adolf Eichmann and Osama bin Laden, lest his grave become yet another shrine for neo-Nazis and other anti-Semites." The Jewish Week reports that conservative Jewish leaders called for a renewal of the vital religious center of American Judaism at the recent biennial convention this weekend, held in the wake of studies showing that the movement is shrinking. The United Synagogue Gala was held in Baltimore, celebrating 100 years. At the opening day of the conference on Sunday, Chancellor of the conservative movement's Jewish Theological Seminary, Arnold Eisen, called for a return to the principles of United Synagogue founder Solomon Schechter in order to face what he called a time of unprecedented challenge and change. Eisen said our aim must be to emulate the boldness and daring of the strategies he chose, referring to Schechter, to adapt them for our day so as to carry Torah forward. Eisen said being as welcoming as possible to bring in more Jews, taking conservative Judaism beyond the bounds of the synagogue, and providing more money and time to the movement was vital. Rabbi Stephen Wernick, CEO of United Synagogue, said in his opening address on Sunday, "We aspire to rewrite our narrative from decline to renewal, energy, optimism, transcendence, and transformation." Wernick had called the centennial milestone a catalyst for committed conservative Jews to own the privilege and responsibility of standing at the epicenter of contemporary Jewish life. And finally, tonight on Shalom TV, a panel discussion from the recent Israeli presidential conference held in Jerusalem on the effect of new media technologies versus traditional media and how they impact the news we receive. It features HBO CEO Richard Plepler, editor-in-chief of Haaretz Aluf Ben, president of MSNBC Phil Griffin, among others. That's at 8 o'clock tonight, followed by L'chaim at 9 with parenting educator Meg Akbas. That's here on Shalom TV and ShalomTV.com. And that's Shalom TV's news update for Tuesday, October the 15th, 2013. I'm Teisha Bader.